Will the House come to order? Mr. Clerk?
Aloha and good afternoon. Today's invocation will be delivered by Representative David Alcos III. Will the members who wish to participate please rise?
Please be seated. You know, this is my second year as a representative giving an invocation. The first invocation was really nervous. Today I'm still nervous. Didn't help that much. It kind of like a public speaker in front of everybody, and especially in this spot, always make me nervous, but feels a little better. I wanted to speak a little bit about I looked up invocation as well as Mr. Ayu looked up invocation. And in my invocation was about prayer, about a blessing, and about a spiritual higher power in the definition as I looked at invocation. And coming up here make me lose all my thoughts of what I was going to talk about. But, what I do wanted to speak about is that we all have many different religions out here on this floor. Some of us have different beliefs, and it's okay to have that choice and that freedom that we live in to have that different belief that we have. And one thing that we do have in common is that we have love. We want to have that love and that compassion that we have for each other, no matter what religion that we have. And with that love, that word love is sometimes really hard to say. When you say, I love you. That word, just that simple 3 words, I love you. For me, it's uncomfortable. It's hard for me to say it sometimes on a regular daily basis. It's easy for me to say it to my wife that is sitting up there, honey, I love you. My wife, Relina, and I just wanted to, and Teresa, she just did her treatment, radiation this morning, and she just came back. I just want to say, I love you, babe, and hope everything went well. We go through all these bills on the floor, and we pass these important bills and message that we get across. But sometimes that 3-letter word, I love you, even is more important than the bills that we have. And I just wanted to say to some of you guys, and I challenge you guys to use that word a little bit more in your daily vocabulary. And I want to say, I love you, speaker. I love you. I love you, Tam. I love you, Rose. Love you, Kanani. And I love you, Ward. And I love you, colleagues. And I want to say I love you, gallery out there. That being said, I just want to say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Father God, for your love. And let your light shine within us through this Capitol and outside of this Capitol. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Alcos. Item 1, roll call. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Ayu, Mr. Alcos, Ms. Amato, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Chun, Ms. Cochran, Mr. Evslin, Mr. Ganadin, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Garrett, Mr. Gates, Mr. Hashem, Mr. Holt, Ms. Hussey Burdick, Ms. Ichiyama, Ms. Kahaloa,
Excuse.
Ms. Capella, Mr. Kila, Ms. Kitagawa, Mr. Kobayashi, Mr. Kong, Ms. Lachika, Ms. Lamosao, Ms. Lowen, Ms. Martin, Ms. Martinez, Mr. Matayoshi, Ms. Matsumoto, Mr. Miyake, Ms. Mizuno, Ms. Morikawa, Ms. Nakamura, Mr. Nakashima, Mr. Nishimoto, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Peruso, Mr. Pirrick, Ms. Poe Poe, Mr. Quinlan, Mr. Saiki, Mr. Sayama, Ms. Souza, Mr. Takayama, Ms. Takenouchi, Mr. Tam, Mr. Tarnas, Mr. Todd, Mr. Ward, Mr. Woodson, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, 50 members are present, 1 is excused.
Item 2, reading of the journal. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, may this matter be deferred.
So ordered. Item 3, Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the governor?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Item 4, Mr. Clerk, are there any Senate communications?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we're in receipt of communications transmitting the noted Senate concurrent resolutions, all having been adopted in the Senate. We are in further receipt of a communication informing the House that the Senate has disagreed to the amendments proposed by the House to the noted Senate bills.
Members, are there any introductions? Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can't see them, but I believe that we have today in the gallery members and representatives of the American Massage Therapy Association, Hawaii chapter, and the Quantum School of Massage and Holistic Health. If they could please stand, and anyone who's here for the Legislative Massage Awareness Day at the State Capitol, if they could stand and be recognized. Mr. Speaker, today is the 26th Annual Legislative Massage Awareness Day. We're so appreciative for all of their work, and I request that I be able to insert their names into the journal.
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
No further introductions. Let's move on to the order of the day. Oh, Representative Alcos.
Mr. Speaker, I have Teresa Kutan. Will you please stand? And my wife. I just want to get their name in the journal, and welcome to the House of Representatives. Relina Elkos.
No further introductions. Let's move on to the order of the day. Item 5. Oh,
Recess,
let's
please.
call a recess. Will the House come to order? Members, we are on item 5. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules of the House in order to consider certain Senate bills for third reading by consent calendar.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion is carried. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1589-24 through 1597-24 as listed on pages 2 and 3, and that the accompanying Senate bills as amended pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussion on Stancom Report 1589-24? 1590, 1591, 1592. Representative Perrick,
In support.
proceed.
This bill basically deregulates the housing process, which is a wonderful thing. It cuts red tape. Thank you for the bill.
Next page, Representative Poi Poi.
Reservations.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Representative Hussey Burdick.
Same request.
So ordered. Representative Amato.
Reservations.
So ordered. Next page, 1593, 1594. Representative Souza.
Reservations.
So ordered. 1595, 1596. Representative Perrick.
In opposition.
So ordered.
This bill authorizes the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts to develop a public work of art related to the Shaka and its history to be displayed in a prominent location of the state. I think the Shaka is a great hand gesture. I drive and I usually take my hand and do Shaka all the time when somebody, pulls in or trying to give somebody space on the road. It's a wonderful gesture. At the same time, we're the House of Representatives and we're focusing time on a hand gesture when there's so many other issues facing our state. Homelessness, crime, affordable housing, high cost of electricity. So with the goal of having different priorities as our priority and not the Shaka, I'll be voting no.
Representative Quinlan.
In support, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
What we're spending our time on with this bill is our culture, local culture, the ties that bind all of us together, the things that make Hawaii such a special place to live. Thank you.
Representative Tam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support.
Proceed.
I think that the bigger picture behind bills like these is that it really does have an economic benefit. When we pass bills that, creates a state gesture or a state observance day, many in the local community come together and hold festivals or events around district parks, and that showcases a lot of our local businesses, and that's what makes them thrive. So I think that this is not a waste of time. Thank you.
1597. Representative Souza.
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Garcia.
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Morikawa for the vote.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all majority members vote aye with the exception of the following. On page 2, Stancom Report number 1592-24, SB number 2066, SD2, HD2. The following vote no. Capella, Peruso.
Representative Garcia.
On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye with the exception of the following. On page 3, SCR 1596-24, SB 3312, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2, Rep. Perrick votes no.
Have all votes been cast? Said Senate bills passed third reading. Item 6, reports of standing committees. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1606-24 through 1628-24 as listed on pages 4 through 8, and that the accompanying Senate bills pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussions on Stancom Report 1606-24, 1607, 1608, 1609. Next page. 1610. 1611. Representative Souza.
Request for a ruling on a potential conflict.
State your conflict.
I was the recipient of a scholarship from the Outrigger Duke Kahanamoku Foundation.
No conflict. Ruling stand till Sendai.
Thank you.
Representative Matsumoto.
Ruling on a potential conflict.
State your conflict.
Also a recipient of the scholarship.
No conflict. Ruling still stand till Sendai.
Thank you.
Representative Al-Baladi. 1612. Representative Al-Baladi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In strong support, brief comments.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important for me to stand up on this bill, Senate Bill number 2837, House Draft 1, because this may be the only opportunity to articulate the reasons why House Draft 1 is so important for this measure. This measure concerns the subject of temporarily authorizing the proposed state veterans home on Maui to Oahu Regional Healthcare Systems and to establish a timeline and a permanent transition of that oversight of operations and management to be reassigned to the Maui Regional Healthcare System. This is very important, Mr. Speaker, for a number of reasons, and in part to address the comments in the Attorney General's testimony before the Finance Committee, which suggests that it is not this subject that is covered. This is an important subject because it covers facilities such as the State Veterans Home that we desperately need in this community. Much like the Oahu State Veterans Home here that is being overseen by Oahu Regional Healthcare Systems, we currently need the Oahu Regional Healthcare System to take temporary authorization of the oversight and operations of the proposed State Veterans Home. We need a State Veterans Home on Maui. We also know that this is a timely procedure that needs to be followed. But what we learned in testimony before the committees is that it's really important that the State Veterans Home on Maui be at some point transitioned away from Oahu Regional Healthcare System to ensure that the revenues that will be generated will flow back to the people and the health system of Maui. A second thing we learned in the testimony before the various committees on this measure is that the self-perpetuating board, the Maui Regional Board, has not been meeting. And that is a critical body that needs to be reestablished, because that was part of the promise of the privatization and the movement towards Maui health systems. We know that there are members, community members on the Maui Health Systems Board. So it is not impossible, as it has been promised to members of this legislative body, that the Maui Health Board can be reconstituted. We need to have this permanent process in place in law so that we ensure that this program can move forward, that proposals can be made to the federal government for federal monies, but then to also ensure that it is not, that the facility and its oversight and its revenues go to the people of the county that it serves, which is Maui. So in strong support of House Draft 1 of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Ward.
Mr. Speaker, strong support. May I have the words of the former speaker?
So ordered.
Entered into the journal as my own, and as a Vietnam veteran, we need more veteran homes. I cannot believe to this day some of the largest homeless populations are Vietnam veterans. Impossible. So these veteran homes that are under the supervision of this bill is very, very much needed. Thank you.
Representative Mato.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to request that the words of the representative from Makiki be thank you.
So ordered. 1613. 1614. Next page. 1615. Representative Garcia.
Reservations.
So ordered. 1616. 1617. 1618. 1619. Next page. 1620. 1621. 1622. 1623. 1624. Next page.
Speaker, 1624, please.
Go on.
Mr. Speaker, strong support In a brief footnote to the naysayers who don't like cameras, who remember the van cams, which people got very upset by because they stopped so many speeders. The point is this: if we had enough police, we wouldn't need this. We are 450 or 477 at least short on Hawaii, on this island, Honolulu HPD. So those who don't like the bill, and I know some people will vote with reservations or against it, please push to get more policemen, and we wouldn't need this bill for those reasons, Mr. Speaker. This is very important because technology fills in where human effort fails, and we have failed to fund the police to its fullest. Thank you.
Representative Amato.
Thank you, Speaker. In opposition, the U.S. Constitution's Sixth Amendment guarantees an accused's right to face an accuser, specifically to expose biases. Given the rapid advances in artificial intelligence, I maintain that rules allowing computers to cite people for violations violate this fundamental right. I am not a Luddite, but some technology can be misused. I am wary of the slippery slope having AI robocops and where it will take us 20 years from now. For that reason, I vote no. Thank you.
Next page, 1625, 1626, 1627, 1628. Representative Morikawa for the vote.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all majority members vote aye with the exception of the following on page 7. STANCOM report number 1624-24, SB number 2443, SD2, HD2. The following vote no. Amato, Capella, Peruso.
Representative Garcia.
On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye with the exception of the following. On page 7, SCR 1624-24, SB 2443, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2, Garcia votes no.
Have all votes been cast? Representative Hasiberde.
Apologies, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to register a no vote for SB 2443, STANCOM Committee Report number 1624.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Said Senate bills passed third reading. Members, please note the 48-hour notice for HSCR 1629-24 through 1633-24 as listed on page 9. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1634-24 through 1636-24 as listed on page 10, and that the accompanying Senate bills as amended pass second reading and be placed on the calendar for third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussion on STANCOM Report 1634-24? Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. 1635, Representative Pierrick.
This is for 1634.
Nope, 1635, but you want to go back to 1634?
At the appropriate time, yes, please.
Go ahead.
In opposition?
Proceed.
This measure would basically create a task force for the purpose of expunging criminals' records. And I don't think that's the movement that our legislative body should head in. We should be tough on crime, deter crime, and communicate to the community that if people commit crimes, there are consequences, and this measure doesn't seem to do that, so I'll be voting no.
Let's go back to 1634, Representative Ward.
With reservations, please.
So ordered. Representative Kong.
With reservations.
So ordered. Now let's move forward to 1635. Representative Capella.
No vote, Mr. Speaker.
So ordered. Representative Ganadin.
No vote, Mr. Speaker. Brief comment.
Proceed.
This seems to be coming from an effort from individuals from Waikiki that want to expand upon criminal sentencing in a similar way that this state and many other states did throughout the 1990s. It didn't work then, and it won't work now to make us any safer. It will make certain offenses that are currently misdemeanors. If you get 3 of them, like a 3 strikes law, turned into a felony. That's a pretty significant difference. That's going to cause defense attorneys, mainly the public defender's office, to take many cases to trial because it's going to turn what could be a few months sentence into a 5-year sentence. These laws throughout the nation have been held unconstitutional, and furthermore, there's no data to support it. We are moving in a way throughout the criminal justice system towards collaboration through all forms of government, through a data-informed system. I think that this is the wrong way to go about it.
Representative Souza?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Ward?
No vote with a brief comment, Mr.
Proceed.
Speaker. This bill returns us back to common sense. I don't know if everyone's been watching the news, but people in New York City, particularly young women, have been suddenly walking down the street and getting punched in the face. Those who have also recently been accused and convicted as killers have got like 15 or 20 or 30 offenses. Mr. Speaker, this is common sense. I mean, even the weathermen know the best way to predict the weather tomorrow is what's the behavior in the weather today. If these guys have been 15 or 20 times offending, you've got to use common sense, saying, hey, the probability is in the 90% they're going to do it again. So you've got to give them some behavioral modification, if you will, to say, wake up, you're not going to get away with this. And this nation is allowing too much of that. Let's get out of jail free. We've had bail free, get out of jail free issues, expungement issues. I mean, we are not a nation of criminals, but we're allowing too much of this to happen. And a lot of it's related to drugs, but I know that's the next bill, but we'll keep it from. But the point is, look, we're not stupid. This is common sense. When you're a child and you misbehave, you get punished. Somehow we don't have that when we get adults and people who are killing, robbing, and stealing other people, and we go off on this tangent, oh, it's such a bleeding heart that we're going to hurt these people. Well, they've hurt a lot of people, and that's why I'll just leave it at that point. This is common sense. Let's stick with it. We're America. We can know better. We can do better. Thank you.
Representative Amato? Representative Amato?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Peruso?
In opposition, and I'd like the words of the representative from Kalihi entered into the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered. Representative Hussey Burdick?
Same request.
So ordered. 1636. Representative Perrick?
In opposition.
Proceed.
This bill would basically take the current fine of possessing 3 grams of recreational marijuana. That fine is $130, and it would switch it to where if you had 1 ounce of recreational marijuana, you would be only charged $25. 1 ounce of marijuana is about 50 blunts. This could be interpreted as basically having less of a penalty for drug dealers. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's where our state should be heading, so I'm voting no.
Representative Matayoshi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition.
Proceed.
To correct the prior speaker, this bill actually sets the bar at 2 ounces, so about 100 to 120 joints. That's one of the reasons I'm in opposition. That's just far too much to decriminalize at this rate. I think that if someone is carrying around 100 of anything, that it would imply the intent to sell. I think that if someone was carrying 100 toothbrushes down the street, you would assume that they're going to be selling toothbrushes. If someone is carrying, 100, 120 joints worth of marijuana down the street, that indicates an intent to sell as well. This is not a companion bill to the House decriminalization bill, but there was a similar one heard and originating in the House that was altering the 3rd degree, I believe promoting dangerous drugs in the 3rd degree. This is going to be changing promoting dangerous drugs in the 2nd degree, which is a little bit harsher too. So not only have we doubled it from 1 ounce to 2 ounces, but we are adjusting a higher level of offense as well. I also disagree with, I'll just point this out too. It's $25. We're basically making it a slap on the wrist. It's $25 or 2 hours of community service. for carrying up to 2 or slightly less than 2 ounces, up to 2 ounces, I guess, of marijuana. I think that's essentially legalizing it up to that amount. I also disagree with the committee report. In the committee report, it states, your committee finds that arrest for possession of small amounts of marijuana or related paraphernalia is one of the most common entry points into the criminal justice system. Now, I called the judiciary to ask them how many people are currently in jail or prison due to simply possession of marijuana. And this time when I called, they couldn't give me an answer. They said that all of the crimes for just simple possession of marijuana just by itself are conglomerated with a lot of other crimes, and they couldn't sort out the number. So if, as a previous speaker on a different bill has said, we are moving towards more of a data-based approach to this, we don't have the data to justify this. And in my previous role as Vice Chair of the Judiciary, when this bill came up, or a bill similar to this came up, the Judiciary at that point told me there were only a handful of people in jail or in prison at the time who were for simple possession, and that was it, not associated with a different crime as well, or in addition. So I don't believe that Hawaii has necessarily the same problems as we're seeing on the mainland. I think this bill is addressing a problem that might be present in other states, but is not present in this one, and this is just simply too much for us to bear. Thank you.
Representative Kitagawa,
In opposition.
proceed.
And can I have the words of the other representative from Kaneohe entered into the journal as my own?
So ordered.
And just a brief comment. As I mentioned previously when we discussed decriminalization with House Bill 1596, I believe that this bill sends the wrong message to the public, especially our youth, by allowing 2 ounces of marijuana to essentially be legalized. We're pretty much saying that it's okay, that it's not wrong to use marijuana, and that it's an okay substance to have. And I don't want to be sending that message to our youth who are already getting mixed messages about other kinds of substances that are out there on the market. In opposition, thank you.
Speaker,
Representative Kobayashi.
in opposition for the same reasons as the 2 prior speakers. I thought 1 ounce was already high, because a person carrying around 50 joints or 50 to 60 joints isn't going to smoke it in a day or 2. That person is probably a distributor or seller. Thank you.
Representative Ward,
Thank you, Speaker. In opposition?
proceed.
A brief comment. First, honor where honor is due, thanks where thanks is due. I want to thank the Chair of Finance, the Vice Chair of Finance, for what otherwise was a historical not hearing of a bill which the people of Hawaii were crying out that, hey guys, don't legalize it. This bill, however, Mr. Speaker, is kind of another end run to make it look like it's warm and fuzzy. These are the accoutrements or the instruments by which you smoke, toke, or whatever with marijuana. It's not something that I think is in the trend of where we are going, and I think this is not a good bill because it's trying to keep the promotion of marijuana as just another thing on the shelf, which young kids and other kids can just marvel with. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, this is not a good bill. But I think we made history yesterday, and I hope we continue, because this bill, like gambling and like other issues, are going to come back time and time again. So let's set the record straight now and continue so. Thank you.
Representative Garcia,
No vote.
so ordered.
And a point of order.
What's your point of order?
I just want to remind this body of decorum, and that when members are speaking, not to laugh and giggle and have some respect. Thank you.
Let's be civil members. Thank you. Representative Kila,
No vote. Thank you. No.
so ordered. Representative Lamasao,
Same request, thank you.
so ordered. Representative Souza,
No vote, thank you.
so ordered. Representative Nishimoto,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Garrett,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Matsumoto,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Quinlan,
Reservations, brief comment.
proceed.
I have serious qualms about further decriminalizing marijuana if we don't have a pathway to legalization. I think that our current level of decriminalization is sufficient, and I don't know that we're actually solving a problem with this measure. Thank you.
Representative Kong,
Thank you, Speaker. No vote.
so ordered. Representative Chun,
Reservations, please.
So ordered.
Thanks.
Representative Vayu?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative La Chica?
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Alcos?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Tarnas? Representative Tarnas?
In support.
Proceed.
Thank you. Sorry to stop the roll here of those who are opposing this. I would urge members here to support this. The reason is, I just want to quote from the public defenders. Government resources should not be wasted arresting and prosecuting marijuana consumers. Unlike dangerous illicit drugs like cocaine or crystal methamphetamine, marijuana has proven medical and health benefits and can be used safely. The FDA has recommended rescheduling marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug because it meets 3 criteria: a lower potential for abuse, a currently accepted medical use treatment in the US, and a risk of low or moderate physical dependence in people who abuse it. There has never been a confirmed cannabis overdose death. Spending tax dollars for criminal prosecution of marijuana is simply a waste of resources that can be better spent focusing on more serious offenses. I support this, and I urge other members here to support it as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Martin? Representative Ward? Second time.
Speaker, second time, refute the former speaker in the sense that Prosecutor Alm said, I'm going to use my words now, basically legalization is already here. Nobody gets other than a slap on the wrist if they're smoking marijuana. That was a construct that brought to me intellectually. The other day I was at a festival, a public festival, 400 people. Suddenly a big whiff of marijuana smoke hit where I was sitting with some neighborhood board people. 10 feet away, Mr. Speaker, almost like between you and me, were the HPD. Did they get all excited and go, hey, where'd that smell come from? No. They are not arresting people for marijuana smoking. It's legitimate, legal, even though you get a $130 fine. So to say that this is going to interrupt or be so necessary to keep these guys out of jail, slap on the wrist $130 is like a parking ticket. And the fact that I saw HPD right there, and I knew they might, if I could smell it, they could smell it, and they weren't enforcing that. So this thing about scaring people that you're going to go to jail because you smoke a joint is total nonsense. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Albaladi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support,
Proceed.
I'd like to point out to members that what the previous committee did, or what the final committee did in this measure, was to criminalize, as promoting a detrimental drug in the 3rd degree, possession of any marijuana concentrate, or marijuana-infused products, transferring a personal use quantity of marijuana to a person who is 21 years of age or older, or smoking marijuana in a public place. This actually provides a measure to allow police officers to enforce against people who are found smoking marijuana in a public place, which is some of the complaints that I found from many of my constituents. And so I think this addition, different from the Senate draft, is a very important addition and actually does provide law enforcement with more tools to enforce against illegal, unlawful marijuana use. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Capella?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In strong support.
Proceed.
And I'd like to have the words of the Chair of Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs inserted in the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered. Representative Matayoshi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still in opposition. I disagree with the public defender. I believe that if someone wants to, I think the public defender's point is marijuana is not as dangerous as things like heroin, methamphetamine, and that's all well and good, but it's still a drug, it's still federally illegal, and it is medically available in the state of Hawaii already. So all of the points the public defender brought up about it having a beneficial use, having health impacts, that's all well and great. People here can already do that without this bill. We do not need this bill in order to get any of the benefits that the public defender is raising. It's still a scheduled drug, even if federally they're thinking about lowering it from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule 4, 3, or 5, it's still a controlled substance. And I don't think that we should be decriminalizing to this degree a controlled substance. There's also no mitigation measures in this bill as there were in the recreational marijuana bill, which I also obviously disagree with. But this bill is in some ways worse. We're allowing up to 2 ounces of marijuana possession to have a $25 fine. 2 ounces is way too much. What we're doing here, we already have decriminalization up to 3 grams, which I also disagree with, but that's neither here nor there since it's current law. What we're doing right now is we're allowing people to carry enough marijuana on them to sell it. So that's really what this bill is. We've already gone through decriminalization for small amounts for personal use. Now we're going to the point where we're allowing someone to carry so much on them that it makes it that they can sell it, and with a $25 kind of a minor slap on the wrist fine, it makes it commercially viable for them to do it as well. So I'm against this bill. It doesn't have the mitigation measures of the other bill, and it's essentially promoting the ability for people to sell an illegal drug. Thank you.
Representative Ganadin?
Reservations.
So ordered.
I think my reservations might surprise some people considering my historic considerations of criminal justice, but it might be better to just wait until the federal government reschedules marijuana and cannabis, and then we do this all in one fell swoop, that we send a direct message to the community that we have heard their voices regarding public sentiment around cannabis and around smoking. I've actually been to dispensaries in California and Washington and purchased product, and it felt like I was going into a fancy wine shop, and it felt like the people selling the product were just making stuff up. And I think that there's a changing culture happening in the United States. I don't think we should do it in a piecemeal way. Maybe the better way to do it is to do a holistic approach, tell the community exactly what we've heard, what we've learned from, and how we don't want to continue to criminalize cannabis or associate it with the harder drugs that are really ravaging our communities.
Representative Perrick.
In opposition.
Proceed.
It was recently mentioned that America is changing its culture with regards to criminalizing or uncriminalizing this drug. I agree. Oregon recently, I believe this past week, signed into law that they were recriminalizing a certain substance. I think that our state should be similar in having a criminalized approach to drugs.
Representative Takanouchi.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Amato.
Thank you, Speaker. So I just received an email from one of my constituents who just wanted me to point out that as the American Academy of Pediatrics, in support, yes. As the American Academy of Pediatrics noted in its 2015 report supporting cannabis decriminalization, imprisonment represents direct removal of a person from needed roles in society, adults away from jobs, parents from young children, and adolescents away from school and their families. Furthermore, these people are placed in environments where they are likely to have close contact with people who have committed serious violent offenses or are repeat offenders. Hawaii's current decriminalization law applies to only a paltry 3 grams, far less from any other state. This means hundreds of people are still being arrested each year for personal use amounts. With all of the harms outlined by the American Academy of Pediatrics, Hawaii recognizes far more is personal use quantity than our medical cannabis law, which applies up to 4 ounces. So, as I said, this was an email that I literally just received from one of my constituents, and as it is my job to amplify their voice, I feel I have done that, and I am in support. Mahalo.
Representative Tarnas.
Second time in support. I just want to make it clear to members here that if somebody is caught with between 1 and 2 ounces, it's a petty misdemeanor in this bill. So make sure everyone understands. I urge your support for this measure. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry, I should be speaking to you, not everybody else. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Martinez.
With reservation, Mr. Speaker?
So ordered.
Thank you.
Our members will be taking Representative Hussey Burdick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also in support, and I just also want to clarify that this bill does nothing to change HRS Chapter 712-1249.4 and 1249.5, which are commercial promotion of marijuana in the first degree and in the second degree. So if you are selling cannabis, it is still a crime, even if this bill were to pass. And also for a point of clarification, even if the amount of people who are being incarcerated for this plant make up, whatever the statistic was, 3% of our current arrests, that is a really harmful way to diminish the lives of several hundred people who are sitting in jail simply for this plant, which has been recognized to have medical qualities. Thank you.
Representative Valcos.
Mr. Speaker, second time. This is going to change our culture if we
In
legalize
opposition.
opposition. It's going to change our culture. If we'll be standing around in a crowd or a grocery store or at a park, this is the smell we're going to smell every day. It's going to be around us much more than what it is today. And a lot of us here doesn't smoke. And this bill, where is it going to stop? 1 ounce, 2 ounce, next time 10 ounce, or maybe legal? It's going the wrong direction for our families. This is to protect our families, our kids, our keikis. And this bill, this drug, I can understand medically it's going to help, and the bill is there, like we all been saying. So I strongly oppose this bill. Thank you.
Representative Onishi.
No vote.
So ordered. Members will be taking Representative Lowen.
In support, and I'd like to adopt the words of the Chair of Judiciary.
So ordered. Are there any other members wishing to speak on 1636? With no members wishing to speak, I'll be calling a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion is carried. We are on item 7, third reading. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Senate bills listed on pages 11 and 12 pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussion on SB 2958? SB 2562? Representative Garcia.
With reservations.
So ordered. SB 2693. Next page. SB 3036. Representative Morikawa for the vote.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all majority members vote aye with the exception of the following on page 11. STANCOM report number 1581-24, SB number 2562, ST3HD1, the following vote no. Gates, Keela.
Representative Garcia.
On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye.
Have all votes been cast? Said Senate bills passed third reading. Item 8, announcements. Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted to ask this body to join me in wishing our colleague from Macaulay and Moe Ili Ili a very happy birthday. Having worked in HR, I know age is a protected class. I won't say how old he is now, but I will say he is not eligible to join AARP. Happy birthday.
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Speaker. That was nice. It was really nice. Tomorrow is the fellowship luncheon. A reminder, in room 423 after session, we have Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Crowley, Deputy Command Chaplain USERPAC from PACON. Thank you.
Representative Nakashima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Consumer Affairs and Commerce requests a waiver of the 48-hour advance notice requirement for the purpose of conducting a public hearing with decision-making to follow on SB 1394, SD2, HD1 related to energy, and SB 2342 related to transportation. SB 2342, SD1, HD1.
I believe you said SB 3194?
Yes.
So ordered.
Thank you. The hearing will be held tomorrow at 2 o'clock in room 329.
Any further announcements? No further announcements. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.
Representative Garcia.
Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion is carried. The House stands adjourned till 12 noon tomorrow.